What's up, everybody, man? I just want to say welcome to another episode of the Weighing In podcast. And I'm joined tonight by my man, somebody I just worked with at the CFFC on Friday night in Atlantic City. Brother, you're doing big things. I know you were with MMA Junkie for a long period of time, doing the journalist thing. Dude, you were rocking it for a while, and I know I gave you a lot of headaches because, as you mentioned, but you said some very nice things about me the other day. I was like, you know what? Let's do a show. Let's see how this thing goes. We worked well together. I love doing the CFFC, by the way. It was a great promotion. But guys, John Morgan, welcome to the Weighing In podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. And hey, man, let's have some fun tonight.
I agree, man. No, man, I appreciate the invitation. It was so cool to have you out to Atlantic City, man. We had been throwing your name out there for a long time about, hey, man, can we get him in the rotation? Obviously, we have some great folks to help in, and we thought we were going to have CM Punk. Unfortunately, he had a last-minute schedule change, so let's go get the real Punk if we can't have CM Punk. Let's get the real Punk. And Josh, man, I mean, no surprise. Obviously, covered your mixed martial arts career for many, many years while you're fighting, but obviously I've continued to observe your broadcasting career and your media career. And I knew you were going to crush it, but still, you never know, right? When you get together with somebody working for the first time, you're not sure. But man, it felt like two guys that had known each other for 20 years and like talking about fights as we sat down on the mic, right? It was a fun night.
I wasn't drinking, but I mean, we sat down at the bar and had some conversations and stuff like that. But man, it was great just to hash about the old times and about how you just, man, you hated interviewing me because I was an asshole, and the truth came out. John had a beer too, and next thing you know, it was like, bro, you were such a jerk, and I was like, oh no, sorry, man. But obviously, you could tell I've turned the page.
No, you have. You weren't drinking. I was drinking. No shot there. But yeah, no. But listen, look, there was always a little. I always felt like you were a little bit standoffish maybe with the media, or at least you understood maybe what some of the the angles they were looking for, the quotes they were trying to get out of you, including myself. And look, you were a part of some stories and some beefs and some industry shifts and standards that I understand that why you may have been a little bit defensive, but it is cool to see how you've grown into it, because you weren't that guy for a long time, and now on this side of it, man, it's fun to see where you're at.
I think you and I are both just nerds of the sport. I really love doing this. And look, this, to be honest, man, this, years and years of doing this, you don't make any damn money doing this. We do it because we enjoy talking about it. We enjoy engaging with the fans. I love doing this podcast. Dave and I, we were lucky enough to, and with Big John as well, to have some great years together. And as we started getting towards the end, and I saw this yesterday. I don't know if you saw this or not. Is Brian Callen and Brendan Schaub, they've been doing their Fighter and the Kid for so long, longer than like probably 5-6 years longer than I started this show. And it just gets to a point where we're older now. We have lives now. And I mean, I'm older than Brendan. It's crazy. I think I'm 5 years older than Brendan. I think I'm almost 50, right? And so Brendan's pushing, I think 43, 42, somewhere in there, 44, somewhere in there. It's wild. It's wild to me. It does shift. The podcast industry is definitely, taking a change. Everyone's got a podcast now, everyone and their dog. And it's great. I love to see the come up for some of my friends that are doing it. I love it. But then because they used to be visitors or on our show quite a bit, we don't get them as much. Now they've, now they're doing a good job. And it's okay. It's very time constraining. You've got a lot of things that you have to put into it. And so, plus just watching all the fights, how it is, but there's not a lot of money in this. And with the way that the sport is going, and I'm not, definitely you and I talked about this, I'm not here to shit on the sport. I'm here to try to pump it up and get it as big as it possibly can so these fighters can make money. But I just feel like it's gotten to that point where now everybody just wants to shit on the UFC because they're the biggest show in town, but they want to shit on everything else as well. I feel like it's more of a fan problem right now than it is an actual fight problem. Because fans, fans could have, I guess, let me start with this. MVP, the fight card, it's a good card. It's an entertaining card. It gives nostalgia to the sport. But let's be honest, Bellator is putting on fights like that every week or every other week, and no one watched.
Yeah.
So it lets you know that it's a fan thing. It really is. They're going to complain about that too. And then if it doesn't, it's a fan problem somewhat.
Well, I mean, the talent in the sport has never been better, right? These athletes just keep getting better and better and better. I mean, you and I on Friday night, CFFC, we're watching women make their pro debuts that look like they could be in the UFC right now. And, men that look like we know they're going to be on the next level. So the athlete and the talent has never been better than it is right now. But I do agree. I feel like especially maybe, I guess, like the fan base itself, especially the ones around our age, right? They've been watching it from the beginning. Maybe they're starting to drift off a little bit, and maybe they're starting to not be as hard. And it's hard, right? There's so many fights on. When you were coming up, there was one fight card a month, and you knew every fight.
You just aged me. You just aged me right there.
Maybe 6 a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's so many fights now, and I know it's hard to keep track of. And like you said, hey, look, we got kids now, we got families, we got other things. So what used to be all we're sitting on the underground all day, every day, Sure Dog forums chiming in. You know what I mean? Yep. It's just a different experience now. So I think sometimes, the sport is evolving, as you said, the media is evolving around it, and maybe sometimes the fans, especially that have been here from the beginning, aren't understanding. You kind of got to change with it, or you are going to drift off a little bit.
Yeah, you've got to look. I think the fan base is definitely the original fan base is still here. They're diehards. They've been here since UFC, 2, 1, and maybe some of us have been here since, maybe they jumped in like around UFC 40, right? V for Vendetta, right? With Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz and that kind of thing. They kind of jumped in around that time possibly, but that's still old style fans. What's happening is they're not gaining any new younger generation of fans. The younger generation of fans are they tune in when they want, their attention span is not the same. They're just not as glued to the TV as we were, because we fell in love with this sport that was a new sport when it first came around. We loved it. We loved so much of it. So I don't know. It's a hard riddle to figure out. I hope they do figure it out though.
But listen, I have a 13-year-old son, and it's funny because he's been training jiu-jitsu since he was a little kid, and he's been around the sport, right? He's been to UFC events and, all those things. He's been around the sport from the beginning. But he's not the biggest fan. And sometimes I'm just like, why? I mean, you see, like, my life is around this. You have access that normal people don't. And he's just like, it's just too slow for me, man. Like, MMA is too slow for me. And I'm like, what? Yeah. I feel like my dad watching golf on the TV when I was a kid, wherever. I'm like, why are you watching this? It's too slow. He's talking about that with MMA. So you're right. There's so much access and media and video games and social media and whatever else. It's tough, man. But I do hope people continue to buy in and do develop, new people to watch and new fans, because I still think it's the greatest sport on the face of the planet. It just feels like it's a little fragmented maybe right now.
Yeah, I think over time they're going to develop some new stars. I really believe that we're holding on to the golden era, the Conor McGregor, the Jon Jones, the Cain Velasquez. Like, we're holding on to that era of great fighters when Strikeforce and UFC merged. I mean, they basically all the matchups we always wished that they would have had is who they had accessible to them. And, we got to see some of the matchups. We didn't get to see some of the matchups, but there was a lot of great fights during that time of, say, 2010, 11, 12, all the way up to like 15, 16. And then it started dying off because that generation of fighters started getting older, and I guess one guy who's not getting older though right now is Nate Diaz. And Nate Diaz commanding the amount of money he's commanding, and comes in. He's like, hey, the Conor fight was offered to me, and talked about, hey, like Dana put out there a great offer. You had heard one number. I believe your number was like, 15. I mean, I heard 15 also, and I heard all the way up to 20. But ultimately they offered him the Conor Ben money. And I wouldn't expect him to come over for any less than that, just to be honest, knowing what they just signed their deal with. I think where they got hung up on, from what I understand, was that all the fights after that were $4 million, which is nothing to snicker at, which is like, damn, that's good money. But then he didn't get an option or a chance to say like, hey, I want to fight this guy or that guy. It was $4 million, take what we give you. And he's like, no, I want to fight like the Charles Oliveira's. I want to fight the guys that are badasses. I only want to fight the guys that have names and value and are willing to get in there and actually, trade and get after it. So the Max Holloways, the Charles Oliveira, and maybe the Dustin Poirier, if he was decided to come back. Those are the guys that he really has interest in fighting. Do you see a reason on why they wouldn't give him those fights?
That's interesting, because that makes more sense to me now. See, I didn't know that aspect of it until you brought it up just now, because when I first heard, like, because I kind of assumed, and I had heard that's the fight they were trying to put together, and it makes all the sense in the world, right? We've been saying for how long? The Conor Nate trilogy, man, that's a big money fight no matter when you make it. And it seemed like now is the right time, right? There's no real relevant fights for either one of them that have to be made, so now is the time. So when I heard that, yes, that was the one they were working on, and it didn't come together because of this, I was a little sad. But now what you're saying makes total sense, because this, I think, is probably a brilliant move from Nate Diaz, right? Because doesn't that leave that option potentially, if he didn't burn any bridges, still on the table, even though he goes and takes this one? Because if he takes that route, then MVP is off the table and he no longer has any control over who he faces. So now he's lost all his negotiating power. By taking this, he can still go back to that option afterwards, right? Because I'll be honest with you, even if he goes out there and loses, if he goes out there and loses to Mike Perry, is there any less demand whatsoever for Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor trilogy? I don't think there is. I don't think the result of the fight matters at all.
No, I don't think it does either. It really doesn't. When you look at it too, like this, I know it's an MMA fight, but let's be honest. Nate Diaz is not shooting a takedown. Mike Perry is not shooting a takedown. They're going to stand, they're going to trade. Someone's going to get cut or someone's going to get knocked out. And, I think it kind of favors Perry only because he's been a lot more active in these knockdown dragouts, but you never know what can happen. It is an MMA fight. He could put his head in the wrong spot and Nate could take his neck, which he's done to guys on the streets of New Orleans, and so he can do all these things. Conor or Nate did come out and say, look, Conor was great, but I'm not trying to kill Conor when he's on his last dying fucking leg. Literally, me and Conor will fight again when the time is right, but it's going to be when we're both on the uprise, not when someone's dying out. I'm not nobody's comeback story. That last line is what got me. I'm not nobody's comeback story. That's what got me, because I understand he doesn't want him to try and come back. He wants him to win one, maybe two, and then I'll come in and fight him, because then if I lose to him, then it's not as big of a deal. I lost to Conor. He's got 2 wins. Cool. But if I lose to him now on his comeback, that kills my market, my negotiations for more money in whatever show I decide to leave and do. Or if the UFC says, hey, we want to cut you and reestablish your check, which they could do after a loss, which they probably wouldn't because it's Nate Diaz. But now if he does lose, they're like, hey, $4 million to fight Arman Sarukian, $4 million to fight these murderers row of wrestlers, which we know Nate just does not like to fight. He wants to fight guys that stand and bang. So I can understand why he chose to go the MVP route. It makes sense to me.
Yeah. And I think, and I think there was another part of that quote too, where he also said, plus I'm also not trying to lose against the guy that just got his leg broke or whatever. Right. So he's always weighing out that risk reward of like, hey, what is there for me to lose and what is there for me to gain in this? Not just the financial side of it. Obviously, we know that the gain side is the big money that's involved in it. But to me, if you lay out all the scenarios and all the factors that are there, it sounds like he played this thing exactly right, because you said it. It's not like Mike Perry's going to go out there, shoot on him in the first 10 seconds and just hold him down for 15 minutes and just, oh my gosh, that wasn't even competitive. Like, they're going to go at it and they're going to throw down, and it's not going to leave you with any less of an appetite to see Nate Diaz fight. So I think, unfortunately, from a fan perspective, it sucks because I know we all want to see that trilogy, but I've been saying for the last few years, I don't care if Nate Diaz has lost 10 fights in a row and Conor McGregor has lost 10 fights in a row. You can still put them together and we're all tuning in. So to know that they wanted more fights other than that, I think Nate Diaz played this thing exactly right. Go in and get this paycheck, have this fun with the MVP card, and then let's go back to Dana White and Hunter Campbell and let's say, hey, can we still do that trilogy? Because I'm ready now.
This is why people love Nate Diaz, because like you said, he weighs the risk rewards. Like, if you doubt that, he didn't do the Roadhouse movie because he said, nah, man, I can't go lose a fight to Jake Gyllenhaal, the guy, Mr. Brokeback Mountain. There's no way, man. I can never live up to that. I'm not losing a fight to that guy. That's why we love him. He was weighing risk reward. He's like, bro, if I lose a fight, whether it's in a movie or not, there's no way. I didn't do that because ain't losing no fight to gay Jake Gyllenhaal, Brokeback Mountain ass. Like, there's no way. That's the type of guy he is, man. He weighed it out. Risk reward. Nah, man, I don't want dudes in my streets being able to tell me that I lost to gay Jake Gyllenhaal. that's amazing, Nate, man. But that's why fans love him.
But how great is it to be Nate Diaz that you can not only be a real true OG, right? There really is that anybody, anywhere, anytime. Like, if you roll up on him in the street, it's going down right there. Yeah. But also understand that I'm working in a business and I need to make decisions that make the most sense for me financially. I mean, him and his brother understand the game and the difficulties of the game. You know what I mean? They really get. So how awesome is it that he's been able to balance that out and being true to himself, but also being, hey, I can be true to myself, but that doesn't mean I have to accept every offer that comes along. Just because I'm anybody, anywhere, anytime doesn't mean that's for any price. Also, you know what I mean? Yeah. We got to do it a little different.
Yeah, let me give you the storyline on this whole thing on how things kind of planned out. Is because I was my name was thrown in the hat for me to potentially fight him at MVP. And I felt like it was, it was just being talked about. But I think they were hoping to get the Mike Perry fight. They had to get released for BKFC. And then when Dave Feldman came out and said there's a big fight for Mike Perry going to be happening in May, I was like, oh, that fight's gone. I'm not getting the fight. Like, I just knew because he had come out, Nate had come out publicly and said, look, I want to fight Mike Perry. Mike Perry's doing what I like. He's just standing, trading. He's doing savage shit. That's what I want. I want to fight guys that are doing savage shit. And I have nothing but respect for fighters that want to do that because that's what the fans want. He knows Nate is, people don't give him credit. Like, oh, Mr. CTE, guys, knock that shit off. This guy is so smart, so smart. He weighed out the options for MVP to fight. He got offered the deal. He went and dabbled over with Dana and said, hey, I'm making this. This is my money. What do you get? Show me what you guys are interested in. They laid out something for him, in the last minute. He looked at it. He's like, I'm going to go over here and do this real quick, and if it works out, then cool. I can probably make some more money. And if it doesn't work out, then we'll come and revisit this maybe. He's smart he's very smart business wise.
100%. So I love the way he's handled that. And I think the other thing that he understands as well, and obviously, man, you and I have been dealing with Dana White for many, many years. If the way you handle things is just an open discussion and you're not trying to, hide anything, there's no lies. It's just like, look, man, here's what they offered me over here. I just got an opportunity to go make a lot more money over here. I don't think it necessarily closes the door. Now, if you had made a promise, a commitment, a verbal agreement, and then you back out of it at the last second, now that changes everything. But to just go in and have a discussion and say, hey, what are you thinking? Here's what I'm thinking. And then ultimately decide I'm going to walk away in a different direction. I don't think that would necessarily 100% close the door on them still continuing to do business together. Now, we'll see. We'll see if Ronda Rousey messes that up for everybody. Maybe that'll change things. But I don't know. But I love the way this has all been handled. And I love it for Nate Diaz, man. He has done so well for himself.
Yeah, because if he does well, right? If he has a great performance, he does well. And he's only signed to a 1-fight deal. MVP is not signing long-term contracts. These fighters are not in a 3-fight, 5-fight deal.
By the way, I don't want to, you don't have to put your business out there, but Josh Thomson, I believe you've been comfortably retired for a while and feeling that you were just good with never fighting again. They must have been coming correct to you if you were willing to at least entertain the option.
There was a conversation about some stuff. Yeah, it was good. It was good. It would have got my ass off the couch. Look, my era, we didn't make a lot of money. I was towards the end of my career is when I started making all the money, which is crazy because I was more on the downturn when I made all that money. I wish I was able to make it at the time that I was at my peak, when I was 27, 28, 29 years old, 30, it just sucks. I didn't waste, just during my prime, the money wasn't in the sport yet.
Right.
It's very unfortunate, but it is what it is. But I'm here to advocate for the fighters to make more money. I just wish that fighters would advocate for themselves to make more money. And Absolutely. Guys like Nate, he's been advocating for himself forever to make the most amount of money as he possibly can. And he's come out on top. The same thing happens for guys like Eddie Alvarez. He's bounced from promotion to promotion, but that dude was crushing it for a while. He was Bodog, Elite XC, Bellator, UFC, then won. Insane. He's cashed out everywhere he went.
He's done so well. He was such an early example of how you can, kind of drive your worth by playing the free agent market a little bit and just seeing what's out there. It's a challenge, right? Because this is what I always say, and you could tell me. I know it's the proper opinion, but you could tell me if I'm right or wrong. But to me, any fighter that's in the gym as a young man, teenager, whatever, they're hitting the bag, they're taking jujitsu, they're dreaming of fighting in the UFC. They're dreaming of being a UFC champion. I don't think there's many people out there in a gym right now hitting the bag on, bro, you just give me that PFL title one day and I'm going to be set. You know what I mean? They want that UFC belt.
Yeah.
But I think as you grow, then you got to realize, hold on, man, is it really that important that I'm just the UFC champion, or am I trying to make as much money as I can? And there's two different paths. You can go one way or the other. I still believe if you want to call yourself the best in the world, if you want to tell the world, hey, nobody can look around and know that I'm not number one, I think you have to be the UFC champion simply because of the depth of the division and how much they can bring top challengers to you over and over and over. So to me, I think to be number one on the planet, you kind of have to be the UFC champion. But there are other ways for you to go out and support your family and put your kids through college and set yourself up for the next phase of life. And you just got to decide what's most important for you.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Yeah, it got to a point in my career where I left for more money. Place, location, Strikeforce always took good care of me. But then when the UFC came back with an offer that I was like, hey, I can make more money over Bellator, you had to leave. Had to leave. I mean, my signing bonus was more than my 4-fight deal they offered me. That was crazy. So I just look, and I know that if you have another promotion, and guys like Eddie, they know this. Nate, he knows it now. Is you can go, and the other promotions, they have to pay you more because they know the UFC where they're at. And if it's like, why would I fight these guys over here and potentially get a loss? And then there is no going back if I'm not making more money. You have to know what your worth is. You have to have an idea of like, hey, I'm willing to command this. You also have to be very patient because you remember how many of us said, hey, Ngannou fumbled the bag because he didn't have a deal in place yet when he left. But then he turned. But did he? But did he? It's like he didn't fumble the bag. And no matter how you look at it, I mean, the guy walked away. He's probably $50 to $70 million richer. You know what I mean? Because of it.
He fumbled one little tiny bag, and as he digged down to pick it up, he found a way bigger bag over here. He'll take that one instead.
Exactly. So, I don't know what it is about Nate Diaz, though. People love the trueness of him, the real him, and this is exactly who he is. Like who you guys see on this platform, this is who I am when I'm with John, at a bar on talking fights. This is who I am when I'm with Big John and we're all talking to, at events. I don't change just because so-and-so's in the room. That's just not me. I might get a little quieter until someone starts talking, but that's about it, otherwise, but this is me. And I can tell like the way that you've done interviews and the way that we talked the other night, this is exactly who you are. So look, overall though, I'm excited for this whole MVP fight. I think it's great nostalgia wise. What do you think that card will end up doing when it comes number wise? It's on Netflix, biggest streaming platform in the world. I mean, do you call YouTube's bigger? But I mean, do you call YouTube a bigger streaming platform? I would call it it's a streaming platform.
I guess it is. I mean, it's global and it's no entry point, right?
Yeah, but I mean, but Netflix has a huge reach, like 300 million plus, and you're in that. I mean, I'm thinking they're going to do anywhere between, say, I started off saying 30 to 40 million. You think it'll do those numbers?
That's tough. That's big, right? Because I mean, again, we're not talking about Mike Tyson, right? We're not talking about somebody that's just an icon of a generation. But I do believe it will be the most watched MMA fight of all time. Like I have zero hesitation in saying that whatsoever, because there is going to be insane levels of marketing behind it. This is insane amounts of star power behind it as well. And as you said, Netflix, everybody's got Netflix, right? I mean, pretty much everybody is paying for Netflix these days. So 30 or 40 million, I wouldn't rule it out. I definitely wouldn't rule it out, especially because, again, because you have Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano, now you appeal to that women's fan base as well. Like, I think back, and you were living it as well, man. When Ronda Rousey came to the UFC, I'll always say, I'll never forget the day, her UFC debut. It was in Southern California. It was one of the UFC gyms. There was an open workout, as the UFC used to always do. And we show up at this gym, and there's like soccer moms and their daughters and stuff at this UFC open workout. Like, we'd never seen that. It was all just 99.9% dudes in there watching these guys work out. She changed the game. So this is appealing to a different audience. Like, my mom got a passport for the first time in her life so she could fly to Brazil and watch Ronda Rousey compete in Brazil because she was such a fan of Ronda Rousey, right? Like, I mean, so she appeals. So that opens up a whole side of the demographic that wouldn't be appealed if that wasn't on there, right? I'm super in the bubble, right? So I still wonder, like, how big Gina Carano's name is. I know the Star Wars franchise, I know all that, but it's hard for me to comprehend because I'm so in the bubble. So I don't know how big her draw is to the general audience, because that's what you're trying to do, right? When you're doing events like this, I don't need the hardcores to show up. I know the hardcores are going to show up. I need all the casuals out there to show up as well. I need people to tune in just because. And, Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano does speak to that. And then you add in Francis Ngannou. Maybe he brings in some folks from the boxing world because he it. And then obviously Nate and Mike Perry. I mean, they did it. And maybe, whoever's doing all the matchmaking, they did a hell of a job with this card, man. I think they did the absolute best you could do with all the pieces that are available for you and not under UFC contract. This is brilliant. Because even we talk about all those big things, but then when you talk about the hardcore, when you talk about the Saladin Parnassus of the world,
that's it was like freak. People don't realize how good he is and how good of a fight that is.
Right? With Kenneth Crawford, that's a great one. Obviously, bringing in Muhammad Mokaev against Adriano Moraes. I
That's
mean,
a huge.
that's a huge fight. So, like, I feel like there's something for everybody. Because even if you want to be like, Carano and Rousey, they're past their prime. What are we doing here? But then you start looking, they got people that are very much in their prime. So, really, really, I am looking forward to this fit. Now, I don't necessarily, I know a lot of people are like, oh, this is the rival the UFC needs. They're not that. But I'm looking forward to this card. I think they did a brilliant job with it.
See, I'm under the notion that the UFC is losing a little bit of luster because we do too many shows. People are like, I'll just watch the next one. There's one big name, two big names. That's it. We do too many shows. Because in my era, and we had, say, 2 shows a month. It was one show every other month for a while. Then it became one show a month. Then it grew. But one pay-per-view show and then one small show, or 2 pay-per-view shows. It was huge because we had more time for them to focus on the stars.
Right.
And stars were built. You knew if you were in the UFC, right? You were considered to be one of the best in the world. There's no doubt you were one of the best in the world. Now, you can't say that. Plus, we're doing 16 fights. Give me 10 fights on a card. John Anik talked about this on the Jackson podcast. And he said, give me 10 fights. Maybe make it 11. If one falls off, you have 10 or 9, whatever it is. But you always, that's the sweet spot, because no one's sitting at home going, let me see the first prelim. I'm barely sitting at home saying, let me see the first prelim. I'm scrolling through going like, oh, I remember that fight. Okay, I'll watch the first prelim. But I'm barely able to get there because they start so early now, because they got to go through 6 hours of fights. If you give me a full 3 hours, a full 4 hours of fights, give me as many prelims as you can in that hour, give me 4 hours and then 3-hour card. I'm all in, man. I'm all in.
So here it is. It's a double-edged sword, because I think you're exactly right about that. And this is, again, relating it to me, but I'll tell you a funny story. The first time I realized it was too long, I got my dad tickets to a UFC event in Dallas, where my family still lives, right?
How old is he?
My dad was like, he's 80 now, right? But This was several years ago. So he was, but still, he was in his early 70s. This was probably like 2015, somewhere around there, and I got tickets for my dad, and it was one of those UFC fight cards where, like, even the first prelim of the night was, like, really good, like, intriguing and interesting, right? But it's my dad who's in his 70s, and he's like, when should I show up? Like, when should I get there? And I'm like, well, like, this is a really good fight, but I'm like, I'm now asking you at 70 years old to sit there for 6.5 hours inside the arena. That's a long time. So from that perspective, you're 100% right. But anytime we talk about shortening the cards or less fights, what does that mean? Less opportunities for the fighters, right? Like, less chances for them to compete, because that's less slots, and you just do the math. That's how many people can be on the roster. That's how many fights per year, et cetera, et cetera. I wonder if maybe, because I do think you're right. What about it shorter cards? But what if they did have like a midweek product at the Apex, like when Contender Series isn't going on, maybe like a Tuesday night, and we've just got like a 3 or 4 fight card. It's like, I don't have to sit here for 6 hours, but on Tuesday night, I'm tuning in for like 3 fights.
Yeah. You've got a great point. You give me an hour worth of content where just you roll it through with a quick production, and I get to watch an hour of just these guys get after it. Maybe like a fast track of Dana White Contender Series without all the hoopla with it. Just give me 3 guys that are on the come up and guys rising stars. And then if they win that, they go to the Dana White Contender Series. Something where you have guys that there's interest in them.
This is a little bit cruel here now. You as the X-Fighter, you can tell me about this. Here was my other idea that I've had about this as well, but I feel like it's a little bad. It's like 2 guys that are on the last fight of their UFC contract. Winner stays, loser moves on.
Oh, you're killing dreams, man. You're killing dreams.
You got guys on the bubble down there, and you're like, are we going to renew his deal? Are we not going to renew his deal? Well, let's not negotiate it. Let's just go get it done.
Oh,
I know it's a little cruel, right? It's a little cruel.
That is, man. Cruel. I'm not sure. The public, I don't think is ready for that. The fighters, I think, will be like, it is what it is. Like, I have to earn my spot. I mean, you may get you'll probably get some of the best fights you've ever seen.
Right.
You would think.
Or
fighters
that are very conservative because you got to win and you can't lose your spot. So it's tough. But I don't know. So I feel like there's a balance there. Like, again, we're saying there's too many fights already. You're not too many fights, but there's so many fights that it's hard to follow along with everything. But I just hate to say, like, well, the answer is less fights. Well, then you also realize what you're saying. Less fights means that's less opportunities for athletes to get paid. And so just don't forget about that side of it.
I understand that, but I also feel like what we're watching right now is not UFC level fighters. And that's the problem with having 16 fights on a card. They're not UFC level fighters. And so you're watering down your material. And that's why I think people are starting, I won't say lose interest. They're just not as tuned in as much. Like when I tune in, I want to see the Khamzat Chimaev, the Joshua Vans, the Pantoja level of fighter, Demetrius John. Like I want to see that level of a fighter every time I turn the TV on. I'm not getting that now.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm okay with, like, think about this. Guys like Jean Silva, guys like Kevin Vallejos, right? They came off the Dana White Contender Series, but they made an automatic splash. Some of these guys that are coming off the Dana White Contender Series, they're not making a splash at all. And you've got to have that type of, I think, splash when you come in. Like you need to be able to just boom, like Sean O'Malley, boom, right away made a splash. I feel like you have to have that. We shouldn't, outside, if you don't have that kind of effect when you come in, I don't think that we should. I think they've got to, and this is not a dig at them. This is, I just think for the long term, for the sport, it's better if we see the best fighters we possibly can see. And right now we're not getting that. We're not getting that product. And I also think it's just because there's so many fights on the card. That's it. And it's not a knock on the UFC. I love what they're doing because I love that they are a place for fighters to be a little bit more developed. But I think it's also kind of hurting their brand because they are the biggest show in town.
Yeah. So here's a couple things there. Number one, I think you're spot on with everything. And I think there's two paths here. Number one, I think, and look, we look at this weekend, right? We got Renato Moicano versus Chris Duncan, and a lot of people kind of scratch their head at that a little bit. But I kind of like the fact that you're giving Chris Duncan an opportunity to kind of inject his name in there because that's a talented and fun guy to watch fight. And does it make sense necessarily for him to fight Renato Moicano right now? No, but you're getting his name in there. And it's kind of some of the things that we've seen a lot lately, like look at Pyfer. Look at Joe Pyfer getting his chance against Israel Adesanya. Look at Kevin Vallejos getting his chance against Josh Emmett. So, yeah, you take a look at the card this weekend, and we could talk about some of these other fights. But the fact that you're putting Chris Duncan there, I like that. So what I want to say is I think there's two paths. I think one of two things need to happen. Is one, I think the UFC has to make fights like this more often, right? Is take those guys that look talented. Take your Loney Kavanaughs that maybe don't make sense to fight Brandon Moreno and give him that opportunity. Give guys chances a little bit faster because, as you know, these divisions are deep, man. You look at some of the UFC weight classes with like 100 guys in there, man. Yeah. You have to fight some killers just to even get some name recognition. So cycle through a little bit. You know what I mean? I think that would help the UFC. And then here's the other thing I was going to ask you. You know, if you were coaching somebody or advising somebody, I almost wonder if in some ways, you know, like the Michael Chandler path, like, hey, go elsewhere, build 100%. Your name elsewhere, because it's hard to build your name in the UFC. Build your name somewhere else and get them to pay you some money to come over when your name matters.
100%. And the reason why I say that, and I've said this, I don't know if you know this, but I'm the one that found, you know, Anthony Rumble Johnson. And I've said it a bunch of times on this show, so everyone knows. I found him in the back alleyway at Shoebox Academy in LA. I was down there doing a guest appearance at a nightclub, and I had to get a workout in. So I go into this back alleyway with one of my buddies who knew Anthony, and Anthony was there rolling with some guys. And then when I walked in, I heard someone cracking the pads. And I come around the corner, and it's this fucking monster. This dude's just quack, 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 quack. I was like, geez. And then I told him, and he introduces me to him, like, wait, oh, so you're the guy I'm going to be rolling with? I'm like, bro, you're a little big, right? Nope. He was a little big. Like, no, I fight at 170. I was like, there's no way you make 170. And half the time he didn't make 170, but he still fought at 170. And so I basically made a couple phone calls, was able to get him connected with a manager that got him in. He was going to come to AKA and train, all this stuff. We already had too many 170 pounders. We had Swick, Koss, Fitch, you know, some other random guys that were in there as well. And so Bob Cook was like, yeah, man, I can't manage him. And, you know, and he's got to train here if I'm going to manage him and this and that. So too many 170 pounders. So I got him hooked up with a manager. That manager ended up getting him on the Ultimate Fighter. Well, that was right after the Gabe Rudiger situation where he went and got a colonic, couldn't make weight. Yep. So like, look, you're too big. You can't make weight on a weekly basis or on a call out basis. So we're going to pass on you right now, but keep yourself ready. Literally like 2 weeks later, he gets a phone call. Hey, Rich Clemente needs a fight. Can you fight him? He comes out, fights Rich Clemente on like 10 days notice, drops Rich Clemente in the first round, you know, and then gasses out in the second, loses, you know, and then gets submitted in the third. Then he goes on this just terror of like 6 knockouts in a row, all under like a minute and a half, just crushing dudes. And, you know, and just, he was just like, he left, but then after he didn't make weight for all that time, right? Where did he go? They released him after he didn't make the Vitor Belfort weight cut. And then he goes to the World Series of Fighting He gets 3 or 4 wins, I think, in the World Series of Fighting at heavyweight. And they say, okay, look, the guy figured out my weight. I'm good where I'm at. He came back down, put him at 205. He can make 205 comfortably. And look, just goes on a tear. But the moral of the story, or not the moral, but the point of the story is that he left making like $150,000. He came back making $500,000.
Wow.
And that was in 4 fights. Had he stayed, there's no way. There's no way that he would have made that amount of money.
It's tough, man. It's sometimes I think that's I know everybody's in a rush to get to the UFC as quickly as possible, man. I get it. Like I said, it goes back to that thing that everybody training as a kid, they're watching the UFC, they want to be in the UFC, they've seen the brand, they get it. It is the highest level of the sport. There's no question about it. It's where the sport started. It remains the dominant organization. I don't see it not being the dominant organization anytime in the near future. I mean, I understand there's rivals there, but not really. I mean, it's not. It's number one. So I get that. But if you're just thinking about from a personal perspective, I do think that sometimes it may be a little bit better to take kind of the slow path there, get around, make your name there, and make your name, worth something a little bit more, that they have to pay you, that they have to have you. I know it's risky. But dude, I know it's risky trying to climb your way up the top in the UFC as well, because it is full of kills. But that's one reason I do hope the match. It's interesting, like the rankings. Like, we never had rankings in your era, right? When did we get rankings? Because Fox wanted rankings. Fox wanted rankings, and it does make sense, right? If you're flipping through the channels, if I'm watching a college football game and I see it's number 1 versus number 4, like, I don't even know what 2 teams they are, but I see it's 1 versus 4, automatically I understand the stakes. Now I'm going to watch it. Fox wanted that. So a common consumer could go, oh, I get it. But I think sometimes it makes the matchmaker's job a little bit difficult, because guys up at the top don't want to give up that ranking. It's not there. So I like it when they can mix it up a little bit and give these guys a quicker path to at least try. If somebody like a Kevin Vallejos looks like he's going to be an absolute killer, don't slow play him. Don't slow roll him to the top. I mean, look at the rise of Ronda Rousey. Look at the rise of Conor McGregor. Obviously with Ronda especially, it was a little difficult because the division was just being built. But they weren't facing. They didn't need 15 wins in a row to get a title shot. You leaped them up pretty quickly, and I think that's one thing the matchmakers have to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, look, it's a sink or swim situation, right? When you've already had a couple good fights, let's just test the waters a little bit. And there's plenty of guys. When you start going through here, I think what's kind of holding up the UFC a little bit, and this is no dig at my boys, because guys like Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, they're not going away quietly. You gotta beat me for my spot, and these dudes are just animals, right? Charles Oliveira, and these guys, right? But you gotta get through them. And the younger guys are just there. They just haven't been able to come up, like Patty right now. He just came up short against Justin. Let you just know how good Justin is. Patty's a fucking stud, man. I walked away from that fight going, I'm an even bigger fan, because there was no moment in that fight where I was like, you're a quitter. He never had that look in his eyes like, I'm quitting. And so that made me a bigger fan of him.
And I think to be honest, the sooner you can get that level and feel that, I've seen it. Obviously I don't know it firsthand like you would, inside the cage, but I've seen it outside of the cage, where it's like guys all of a sudden respond. They take a setback, but they walk away and they go, oh, I got it now. Now I understand what the level is. Now I understand what makes these guys a little bit different, whether it be the strength, whether it be the tactics, whether it be just their mindset in there. It's like, oh, now I got it. Now I got to go back and I see what I got to fix to get there. Because unless you're Habib, you don't walk out of here undefeated, right? You're going to take some losses along the way. I'd rather you jump in, maybe get one a little bit early, test yourself, see what that level truly is, and they go, okay, I got it. I know where I need to be.
Yeah, that's what happened to Islam, right? He hasn't lost in some 14, 15 fights or something like that. Yeah, it's insane, right? And you could say his fight, I don't want to say it was a fluke, because the guy threw a straight shot, landed cleanly, and dropped him, put him out. But he understood, I believe, that that can happen again. Got to make sure that I'm not, these moments don't happen. So, look, there was also some comments from Dana White. I'm going to go ahead and have Dave pull that up and play it for us. Go ahead, Dave.
I mean,
AI stuff, commercials, part of the promotional content, just AI in the UFC in general. I've seen fans complaining about.
Oh yeah, what are they complaining about?
I guess I've seen people saying that the UFC should be paying artists instead of using generative AI, stuff like that.
Give me a fucking break. AI is coming, and if we're using AI, who gives a shit? people are upset about it. We should use artists.
So is it a UFC internal choice?
Who gives a shit? It has nothing to do with Paramount. Paramount's not telling us how to run our production. We run the production. Sure. So every time we change, we go from Fox to ESPN, and then we go to Paramount. People are like, ESPN's doing this, and Fox is doing that, and Paramount, they're not doing anything. They have nothing to do with our production. They do create some of their own spots for fights, but we do all our everything from the artwork to production to music. Everything is done internally and always has been at UFC. How about this? Shut the fuck up and watch the fights. What does that mean?
I'm sorry, man. I can't help but fucking say I agree, man. Like, stop with making up this bullshit. AI is coming. What are we talking about? Really?
Yeah. So a couple things here. Number one, on the one hand, I do wish a lot more of these press conferences, and obviously I spent many years in them, and I understand everybody in there is trying to get their stories and trying to get their quotes and trying to get the most relevant topic and all that. But I do wish more of these things were just about the fights. Let's talk about the athletes. Let's talk about what next. Let's talk about who's on the come up, etc. Let's talk about I feel like we spend so much time in the press room talking about not anything but the fights that happened that night. So on the one hand, I get that. Now, the other hand too, and I don't know who that was. I didn't recognize the voice as to who asked. A lot of them of the journalists, obviously, I know who they are right away just by the voice. So I'm not sure who it was, and I don't mean this as any insult, but there is some things too where I feel like sometimes media just asks things because they feel like it's the thing that needs to be asked, and because of that, they don't necessarily clarify exactly. Because what was the point of what you're asking? I mean, are you saying that like, hey, don't you think it's weird that you're using AI because it doesn't feel as genuine, or maybe it doesn't feel there's as much, actual promotional creativity in it if you're just allowing AI to do it versus your talented editors, et cetera, et cetera? Is that your question? Or is your question, hey, are you using AI? You just got $7.7 billion from Paramount. There's a lot of graphic artists and video designers out there who do great work that you're trying to help cut out of the economy. Now, to your point, Josh, it's scary, but AI is coming. You know what I mean? But is that your question? Is that like, hey, why are you guys not supporting the economy? And is there a way? I don't know. So I think sometimes, and I get it. Like, trust me, man, 20 years of interviewing Dana White, I get it. If it's your first time in front of him or you've never been around him, he can be a little bit intimidating. You can be a little bit nerve-wracking. You can be a little bit scared. And maybe you're not asking directly what you need to ask, or, following up on the points, et cetera. But I just think if you're looking for an answer specifically, make sure you ask that as specifically as possible so that you can get the answer. Otherwise, you're just going to get Dana White because his voice is louder than yours. They can cut your microphone. They won't cut his. He'll handle the business. And if you happen to be in front of a crowd, trust me, the crowd ain't supporting you. They're supporting Dana White. So.
No, because he'll cut your credential too. If you're like, nah, bro, you're out. Next time when you apply, who? What? I never heard of you.
Hey, I will say in all the years, obviously credential pulling, it happened. I mean, obviously you and I go way back to the days of, Josh Gross and Loretta Hunt, and, the early days. But I will say, especially in more recent years, one thing I always heard Dana White say is like, look, I don't care if you criticize us. Just if we do something good, say when it's good. If all you do is criticize us, then what the hell are you doing here? Like, are you saying we never do anything good ever? Nothing we do is good. So anyway.
No, I 100% agree with that. We've focused for a while, myself included, is focused on a lot of the negative stuff because negativity sells. And when you and I talked on Friday, talking about doing this show tonight, I said, look, it really comes down to, I want to start pushing a more positive content show. And maybe it doesn't get the clicks. Maybe it doesn't do as well. But ultimately, like, I'm here to kind of pump these fighters up, try to pump up the UFC and every other organization I possibly can, because the fighters need avenues to go to. If once Bellator went away, they lost one of those avenues. They had the PFL, and then PFL's on shaky ground, I think, a little bit too. I do like the changes that Jonathan Martin is making. I do love what he's doing over there. I think Ryzen's got a good stronghold on the lighter fighters, up to 155, and then they've got to figure out the upper weight classes. But they're doing what brought them back into the business, or brought them into the business, was the lighter guys first, then putting freak show fights on with the bigger fighters. And if they can start doing that, I think they're going to have a lot more success. And who doesn't want the Yakuza involved in MMA? I do. I've always.
You can't say that. You're not supposed to say that.
They pay well. Let's not pretend. We had the Italian mafia that was with the UFC. Let's not pretend. Let's not pretend.
Sir, I live in Las Vegas. I have no idea what you're talking about. We have no such organizations around.
We have no idea. No idea, right?
Hey, I love what you said. By the way, I'm a fan of John Martin. I'd never met him until he took over. I've had a couple interviews with him, man. Just seems like a sharp, level-headed guy that's, realistic about the situation and the task in front of him. PFL, man, what a great show they had this. I mean, of course, everybody's talking about UFC Seattle. UFC Seattle crushed it, no doubt about it.
Best show of the year so far. Best show of the year.
Best show of the year for the UFC by far, man. Great highs. But this PFL show was really, really good as well. I hope people were able to catch that. Johnny Eblen, dude, like if you doubted him whatsoever, like that dude is for real. I mean, he steamrolled through Brian Battle. And then Impa Kasanganay, like that knocked him and Dalton Ross to just throwing down. That was fun. I mean, so those were great fights. And then and you're 100% right. So in my time at MMA Junkie, we used to always do a lot of card breakdowns and things to watch. And, they didn't always do the most traffic. And I feel like nowadays people aren't really talking about that kind of stuff anymore. Again, it's the big headlines. It's businesses. Look, all these media outlets are businesses. They've got big payrolls to support. I get it. So I'm not faulting them, but I miss that. Like I want somebody telling me, who I need to watch. Like, this Alexei Pagande kid, like, oh my God, tell me this dude doesn't look absolutely spectacular over at PFL. Like that's what I want to see. Like, look at this UFC card this weekend. Is it the most stacked card ever? No. Are there some names on here that you should probably watch? Yes. And I think that's just the way you have to tailor our expectations. Is if we want these blockbuster loaded cards, we're going to have some that have more up and coming prospects. But I do wish more of the media. And I know you've gotten in trouble for this, right? Because it's not about promoting the events, right? But at least covering. Because what I always said is like, look, if we're experts in the field, and we can at least use our platform to say, hey, you, Mr. Casual Fan, I know you don't have 6 hours to watch, so I'm going to tell you what you need to watch. If you have 6 hours, fantastic. Throw it on in the background. But I'm telling you right now, of course, tune in for the main event because you can do that. But keep your eye on this kid right here. Watch so-and-so right here because I think these are going to be the people that you're going to see evolve. And I wish there was more of that, but I get it. It's not where the big clicks and the big money is.
But if you cut right to the chase and say, hey, these are the fighters you really need to pay attention to right now that are really like the Kevin Vallejos, like that kid, like, I'm sorry, but you can't get me not to want to watch him now. And I can't stop talking about him. Like, even if I can't say his damn last name, I still keep talking about it because the kid's impressive. Very impressive. You go back and watch his John Silva fight in the Dana White Contender Series, you're like, this kid, he should have been signed that night. Should have been done. Like, that kid's so damn good. And seeing him fight and seeing him carry on, I want to see that he's already in the top. He's already in the rankings. That's exactly where he should be, right? This kid, that's what I'm talking about in terms of fighters that I want to see grow in the promotion, but they've got to be fast tracked because now I can follow him. Now the only thing with him, he's got to be active. I need to see him fight again. And that's the problem. A lot of these fighters are fighting, getting a win, and then waiting 6 months. No, man, try to get back in there in a fight. No.
You can't do it. And I understand it. You're waiting for the perfect matchup. You're waiting for the perfect scenario. You're waiting to be perfectly healthy. Like, I understand all those things, but I'm with you too. That's the other thing is just keeping your name out there, right? I mean, at most you're fighting 3-4 times a year if you're staying super, super busy. It's hard to stay in front of the public's eye. You know what I mean? And yes, there's social media to help you stay out there, but that's going to do a little piece of it, but not everything. And let's be honest, not everybody's gifted in social media, nor does everybody like social media. I know you kind of have to be there, but you got to fight. You got to fight, and it progresses your career forward. So staying busy, man. I think that's such a big thing, man. You see people, I think, end up kind of wasting some years and not realizing how fast it goes by, man. The window is small, man. It's a small window. Got to capitalize.
Hey, have you tried this, John? The Element?
No.
It's like a hydration company. They're freaking awesome, man. They're really awesome. So, but yeah, I mean, like they're basically like they have like a powder form, and this is a sparkling one because I like the bubbles.
Right.
And so, but they're great, man. So it's got like 500 milligrams of sodium, 100 milligrams of potassium, and 30 milligrams of magnesium. Do you have you have a hard time sleeping?
I do.
Okay.
No question. Yeah.
So this for me though, like literally helps me sleep, knocks me out.
Really?
Yes. Yep.
That is well.
Swear to you,
I'll have
it's the amount of magnesium in it that just like if I drink one of these before bed, probably like an hour or two before bed, all of a sudden I just start doing this.
Oh, that's perfect.
Just start drifting off, and I feel like I get my best sleep, man. So
I'll have to check it out.
Product.
I mean, A, I live in the desert, so dehydration is an issue. B, I have been known to partake in some activities that tend to dehydrate your body. So anything that I can do. Yeah. Funny how much you can drink and still be dehydrated, right?
It's wild, isn't it? Especially out by the pool, right?
Especially out by the pool, man. So I'll have to check out LMNT. I'll check it out.
So this is what from what I understand, to go back to Dana, from what I understand is the media guy decided to ask the question because, artists are losing their jobs, and they're not keeping the artists busy. But look, as a person who owns a company, I own a couple companies. It's not my job to keep everyone hired. It's not my job to keep artists paid, right? And AI is coming. But that being said, I think what the problem is there's a fan that made an AI video about the Strickland and Khamzat fight. And have you seen that? We're going to play this real quick. It's a promo. And this is why the UFC, I believe, is like, look, these are the things that AI is going to eventually do. And this is what they are lacking right now, I believe. Because back in the day when we got the Conor and the Jose Aldo, promo, and then all the tours and other fighters that, the DC and the Jon Jones, the face-to-face on ESPN or whatever it is, and like, I'll spit in your face and I'll kill you. And like, we don't get that anymore. We don't get any of that. I think that's hurting their brand a tiny bit. But this is that AI promo that they literally it's like a little horror film. We're going to go ahead and watch this real quick if you guys haven't seen it.
Whitaker, what the fuck? Come out and let's do the man dance. Bro, are you kidding me? Let's go, motherfucker.
Bro, wild. I got chills, bro. I got chills. You know what I'm saying?
That's
like that.
wild.
That's good use of AI. And look, first of all, if you were actually to ask all those fighters to act that out, like, is Whitaker going to be like, oh, you just want me to lay down over here, like, and act like I'm knocked out? Like, is Strickland's going to be like, oh, you just need me to sit down? I mean, I'm sure they could cut in some highlights, or whatever. But look, AI is coming. It's not like that's good use of AI, man. I know there's a lot of crap out there. That's good, man. That's a good promo.
And that's what I feel like the UFC has gotten away from. We got the Conor McGregors and Jose Aldo, the Habib and Conor promos leading up to the bus stuff was used over and over again. When Conor threw the dolly through the bus, there was just so much content that they were producing during that time. We don't get that anymore.
So let me throw this out there. Let me throw this out there because I'm actually pretty hopeful about this. It didn't dawn on me at first when the UFC went to Paramount. Like, obviously, we were thinking Netflix, we were thinking Apple, we were thinking all that stuff, right? Paramount comes in at the last second. It was like, whoa, what? Hold on. So it was weird. And I didn't really have a chance to process it because I thought for sure they were going to end up on like Netflix and ESPN or something. But where I'm going with that is this. For the last contract, they were part of a sports company. Only a sports company that just produces sports, that has a basketball game every night, a baseball game every night, and it's produced the same way. And it's here, we're in this arena, and we come in, and this is the home team, and this is the starting pitcher. Now they're with a studio company, a movie, a television company. And I know that Dana likes to say, hey, man, they don't tell us what to do. We do all of our own stuff. And he's right. Like, they don't need to be telling them how to run the events themselves, right? But I feel like I have seen a couple, just little slivers, not something quite as cool as that, but little slivers of promo. And we're still very, very early on in this relationship. I am a little bit hopeful that due to the relationship with Paramount and how they have like actors and directors and producers, that they are going to take a little bit different look at it. I know it's kind of silly, cheesy, whatever, but even in the beginning, like their first promos were like the Are You Entertained gladiator type stuff. Like, I feel like they're going to embrace more of that. So I will just say, I guess, stay tuned. I feel like at least maybe I'm a little hopeful that now that they're not just with a sports company, that maybe they will embrace that a little bit more and understand, because it adds so much. I mean, Josh, Pride era. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of production and storytelling and what it's unbelievable. It adds so much to it. And it's funny because my own kind of relationship with this has evolved. Because in the beginning, because I was around during the dark ages. I was around, the first UFC I ever attended, UFC 16. You know what I mean? Like I was around when Senator McCain was trying to shut this thing down, and we were full contact fighter newspaper. Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, we were there, right? And I used to remember, and I don't know how you felt about this at the time, but me in the early days, anything that associated us whatsoever with like professional wrestling, I was like, get it out. We have to let people, because I would have people ask me like, are those real fights? It's like, come on, man. Like, yeah. So I didn't like that type of promo at first. I liked like, no. Let's not make us look like that, because we got to make sure people understand these are real fights. We're well beyond that at this point. Yeah. I think people understand these are real fights. We no longer need that. Now, I say we embrace as much of that pageantry and promotion as we can, because it just adds so much to it. Like the fights are the fights, but it's when you can really get sucked in where you're like, I mean, me and you can watch any two randoms step in a cage and we're going to have fun breaking it down and seeing who's doing what. Oh, did you see what he just did in that adjustment? But that doesn't get the casual in. Like you want to care, like, bro, did you hear what he said? And did you know this and that? That stuff helps, man.
I was literally fucking under bridges with fucking Big Macs, fucking trying to see two bums fight for a while. That was me. I was like, yo, what can I do to get some action and work on my commentary gig? Like, what's going on? Hey, huh? I got 2 cheeseburgers and a Big Mac. You want some fries with that? What do you want? What's it gonna take to get you guys to square up? Let's go. Yeah, shit, that was my style back in the day. Shit. I'm not. You think I'm bullshitting, bro? I used to in San Jose. I swear, dudes like these dudes in San Jose, bums were a little weird, man. Like in terms of not just being like on drugs. Like literally, I was at a gas station with my manager, or not my manager, my coach Javier, and he's Mexican. Last name Mendez, obviously. Hey Paco, whatever the fuck your name is, you got $1? That's how they would talk to you.
Right.
That's how bums would talk to you. Like, give me your money. Hey, give me $1. Like, I ain't give you no $1. But you know they were hungry, right? Like, hey, if you fight that bum over there, I'll give you a cheeseburger and some fries.
It was a different time. I would never do. He would never do that now. He would never do that now.
Yeah, if we had this though, jeez, man, I would have been famous back then. Can you imagine? I know they had bum fights, back in the day. But bro, if you had a real camera, you'd have to carry around a little video camera. I would have filmed everything. Would have filmed everything. Look, obviously, you all know I'm
crazy,
bullshitting.
You're crazy, man.
But back on the data situation, AI's coming. The marketing, I do believe that Paramount will eventually get more involved and getting athletes and fighters into their shows, and they're gonna elevate their level of being of star power. Obviously, I think 100%. Give it time. Yep. We're not even a full 6 months into this deal yet, and they got a late start because they wanted to make sure that they didn't step on ESPN at all, because ESPN is still a sports platform. You don't want to piss them off, and now they don't talk about UFC at all. You're not in the top plays. The top 10 plays anymore. You're not, best knock. You're not in any of that stuff anymore if you'd have left pissing them off. So they did a good job of making sure that they didn't do any promoting. They didn't do anything until the deal was done January 1st, moved on. Perfect timing. Yep. I thought they handled it professionally. There's so many things that people just say, oh, I haven't seen promos. There's no fights. There's none of this. Because they couldn't do shit until January 1st. They couldn't do anything.
Yeah. I think it's going to continue to evolve. I'm hopeful, and you're exactly right. They had to nurture that relationship. You still want to be on like ESPN. I know people talk about their dwindling numbers and stuff like that. Whatever, dude. It's still ESPN. You still want to be on those highlight packages.
Absolutely, especially if you're a sports. You're the premier combat sport in the world, and now they're dabbling in Zuffa boxing as well. They want those fighters to be on there. So there's a lot. Yep. There's a lot that they're trying to. Dana also, I believe it's the same guy, asked, hey, Jon Jones, couldn't go $1 over 15 million. What kind of caused that to fall apart? And Dana's comments were, who gives a fuck? And I got to be honest. Can I just say this?
Yep.
I don't give a fuck. I don't care. When Jon's ready to come back for 15 million or whatever they're willing to pay him, then that's when we'll see Jon fight. Because I'm at this point in my life, in where I'm at in terms of talking about fighter pay, is until the fighters are ready to advocate for themselves, nothing media says is going to put pressure on them to change it. The fighters have to speak up for themselves. Jon spoke up for himself. It didn't work out. Maybe didn't want to pay more than 15. I felt like he should have taken the 15. 15 is probably the most he's probably ever made. 15 million flat or whatever it is, and then move on from there. What other fighters can I potentially fight? That was the fight that he wanted anyways, was the Alex Pereira fight. He wanted that one before the Tom Aspinall fight. They said, no, you got to fight Tom first because of the title situation. Now the title situation is not there. They'd offered him more for the title because the title means something to them. We would have paid you $30 million to fight Tom Aspinall. We're not paying you $30 million because we're going to pay you 15 to fight for a non-title, or maybe I think it is now an interim title. For the interim title, and I don't think Jon wanted anything to do with that until Jon was ready to take the fight. I'm where I'm at on this is until fighters stick up for themselves, or until they advocate for themselves to make more money. I'm tired of hearing about it. I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because what more do you want to know? That we made an offer, he didn't like the offer, we didn't agree. He has a contract, he wanted more than's in the contract, so we made him an offer. He said no, so we moved on. Like. This thing like, oh, they're freezing me out, they're not offering me. I mean, and I think in that interview, like kind of Dana went into that. And this is the thing I've always tried to point out to people when you hear athletes, oh, they're not even making me an offer, they're not even giving me any fights. Really? Because then that means they're in default to the contract. So clearly you just need to have your attorney write up a letter real quick because they're in default and you can be released from your contract like that. If they're
they have to get paid still.
That's it.
Even if you don't offer me a certain amount of fights in a certain period of time, you have to pay me to get me out of my contract. You have to pay me for me not to fight if they don't offer it to you. That's what's wild.
So that I'm kind of the same way. I don't know. I mean, I get it. And like I'm the biggest Jon Jones fan, man. I think Jon Jones is the greatest of all time, man. I was seeing him on his rise is unbelievable. But man, he's financially set, and if it doesn't motivate him and he doesn't want to get in there, like what are you supposed to do? You can't make somebody fight. Like if 15 million wasn't enough. It wasn't enough, So it's like, okay, move on. It's a shame. I would like to. I do think Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira. I think that's the biggest fight you can make in the sport right now. So I really wanted to see it. What's the biggest?
Oh man, you and I can battle about this. I think it's Ilya and Islam is the biggest fight you can make, just numbers wise. Ilya be Spain, Georgians, and the fact that he's possible 3-division champion, Islam 2-division champion, huge following, Habib, like that whole storyline writes itself. But then on top of it, you look actually at the pay-per-view numbers, that who pulled the most pay-per-view numbers, and I'm not using the Alex Pereira UFC 300 because Conor was supposed to fight on that card, and there was tons of pre-bought pay-per-views that were probably not taken out of that. So people don't cancel just because like Conor, sure, like no one was like clamoring to probably get their money back. Alex is a good fit to fit in there. Everyone loves Alex, but in that portion, Islam's numbers were right there, and it was always going to be Islam, So you knew what you were getting. He did 415, I think. Maybe it was 400,000, something like that. Those are big numbers. Despite what people may think, pay-per-view numbers have taken a shit over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So, but I think to me that the biggest fight you could possibly make will be Ilya versus Islam. Jon and Alex is right there. I'm saying that they're neck and neck. I think that the smaller guys ink them out.
And I actually feel like, if I'm being honest, the Ilya and Islam is the more meaningful fight in terms of like true legacy and all-time great. You know what I mean? Like true legacy and all-time greats. I'm just thinking, I guess, like star power. Like, man, I've been in the arena when Alex Pereira walks in, and like the magnetism is unbelievable. And Jon Jones has been around forever, and it'd be big. But anyway, bottom line is this: is just like, look, it's not like as if this is what's weird about it. It's not like the UFC came to Jon and said, Jon, we know you have a contract that pays you $20 million, but we just want to pay you 15 for this one. Are you okay with that? You know what I mean? Like, that's not the way it went. That'd be one thing. Because if he did that, then you'd be like, UFC, what are you doing? The man has a contract. Honor his contract. You know what I mean? Put the fight on. That's not what happened. They came above and beyond the contracted number and said, here's what we want. And he's like, not quite enough for me, so I'm walking away. What are you supposed to do?
Let's remember, he just signed this contract before he fought Cyril Gane. He's got 4 more fights left on the contract. It was a 6-fight deal. He's fought 2 of those fights. One was against a stand-up guy for the title, and the other one was against a 42-year-old, and no disrespect to Stipe, but who was out of the cage for 3 years. They literally had to drag him out of retirement to fight Jon Jones because Jon wanted that fight. You cannot say that the UFC did not do him a solid.
And how much does it show you how well Jon Jones has done that Jon Jones says, you know what, man, that's the guy I want to fight so bad. And you're saying I can do it at the White House, a once in a lifetime opportunity. Oh my God. Thank you. But you're only coming with 15 million.
Oh.
Nah, not enough. Because, bro, I'll go fight Alex Bejeda for 15 million right now. You know what I mean? Like,
and Jon Jones at the same time.
Jon Jones at the phone, bro. We can just do it in the garage. You know, I mean,
This
like, come on.
This is first world problems. We got some first world problems right now. He's got some first world problems for sure.
I love it. I love to see that he's done that good, that he can have the opponent that he wants at the location he wants, but the money ain't right, and he's out.
Jeez, man, wild. I mean, look, ultimately, I've said this before, is Jon Jones, no matter how much of a fan I am of his fighting, everything else, keep it out of the way. Okay. But just strictly his fighting, fan of his fighting. I think he's probably the greatest of all time. I put GSP there because of the steroid stuff, you know, with Jon. But outside of that, I mean, like, you can intermix them however you want. I don't care.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not over here fighting for Jon Jones or GSP to be the GOAT, because it can come and go as it goes, as time goes on. But ultimately, like, he can go ahead and demand whatever it is he wants. He's that guy. I just don't care whether he fights again or not. If he does, I'm all for it. I'm watching. I'm tuning in. I'm like, yeah, I'm like a kid. Like, yeah, absolutely. But when they're handling the business side of it and it's going through this mess and he chooses not to fight anymore, I just don't care. Same thing goes with Conor. I don't care whether he fights again. It doesn't bother me if he decides to fight or if he doesn't fight. Sure, would I love to see him fight Nate Diaz? Absolutely. Do I care? Absolutely not. It is what it is. These guys are obviously 38, 39, and 40 years old. But I feel like we're holding on to those guys because those were the golden era. That was the golden era of fighters. But now I think the guys like the Kevin Vejos guys and those guys need their time to shine. The Joshua Vans. I mean, I need these guys. These are the guys that I want to see fight. You know, the Jean Silvas and all the younger generation of guys that are coming up that are so fun to watch. I want to see those guys have big platforms.
And that's what I think people as fans need to do. We talked about the evolution of, as a fan, kind of evolving. Man, you have to let it go at some point if you want to stick around the sport. Like, what happens when Matt Hughes goes away? What happens when Chuck Liddell goes away? What happens when Randy Couture goes away? What happens when Fedor Emelianenko goes away? Et cetera, et cetera. It's cyclical, man. It just is. You can't do this forever. And the other thing this is the other thing I always like to point out to people, and obviously you know it well, but like to fans that may not think about this, like Jon Jones, Conor McGregor, anybody else in the roster would go fight. If you called him right now and said, I've got to fight, it's 15 million, it's right down here, let's go do it. They're going to get up off the couch and go do it. But it's that training camp, man. It's that time, especially when you have kids and family. And wait a minute, man. I know not only what I'm going to have to put myself through physically, but I know I'm going to have to put myself through mentally. And I know what my family is going to have to go through. I know I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to be selfish as hell for the next 8 weeks where everything is just about me from the minute I wake up until the minute I go to bed. And no, I'm not taking Junior to school today. And no, I don't have time to play because it's, I'm trying to recovery time. And I think that's why. And so when you can get to a part where, again, financially, you're in such a position that you've won the game, like Conor McGregor, Jon Jones, they won the game.
Yeah.
They don't need to come back. They won the game. And you said it. If they do come back, damn right I'm tuned in. But they won the game. They're financially independent and don't even have to take the offer, even if it's the guy they want and the location they want, if the money ain't right.
I got to be honest, man. Jealous as fuck. Just jealous as fuck. Right? That's just how it goes. Hey, I want to get your opinion on this fight card, before the weekend coming up. We've got Moicano versus Chris Duncan. Give me your insight on this.
Well, first of all, I'm a big fan of Renato Moicano. Who isn't, right? Like, Money Moicano is incredible. I got to call some fights with him, and he's absolutely incredible. He's fun to be with, and he's made such a personality of himself. I do think this is Chris Duncan's time, though. And I hate to say that because Renato is the man. Duncan is a savage, man. If you haven't been watching Chris Duncan fight, he is the kind of guy that you want to see compete. Spent a little time in Bellator as well, and now is 6-1 in the UFC. I was not a fan of his in the beginning because on the Contender Series, he knocked out one of our guys that was supposed to be there. So Charlie Campbell was winning the fight out of CFFC. Charlie had his contract signed, bro. He was winning the fight. It was done. And then Chris Duncan had this huge comeback. Now, luckily, Charlie's made it too. But what Duncan has been able, he's fun. He's a fun guy to watch fight. He is an absolute bruiser. He's got great grappling as well. So I just feel like this is Chris Duncan's fight. But I hate picking against Moicano. Who isn't a fan of Money Moicano?
I'm leaning towards Chris Duncan as well. And the only reason why I am leaning towards him is because Moicano is so caught up in his gym opening, I opened up a gym at the same time that I was fighting Benson Henderson.
Yep.
This literally, like, my gym opened up 2 weeks before that. 19 days before that, I opened up the day before New Year's Eve. I opened it up. We did a class. We called it good. You know, all that. It just brutal, right?
Great.
Brutal. But he's got his podcast. He's got his gym. It's hard to do business, do all these things, and still be focused 100% on fighting. You just can't do it. And so, yeah, definitely leaning towards Duncan on this fight, based on that, based on the fact that, like, and not, I mean, I don't say skill level. Obviously, the experience goes to Moicano. The post-fight interviews go to Moicano. His ability to tell the fans and the crowd everything that he's doing is awesome. I gotta be honest, when he first came into the UFC, I was like, he's okay. He's like every other fighter, right? Just, you know. But when they gave him that mic during the COVID time, and he just went off talking about how great America was, bro, I felt like I had to stand up and take my hat off. I was like, I just was.
Salute. Start playing the national anthem, baby, right there.
Yeah, he just got me so hyped to be American. I was like, this dude, I love this dude. And he's not even from here. Like, I was like, bro, I'm all for it. Love it. Thank you.
He's great, man. He's fantastic. This is a tough matchup for him. But you know what? Again, in the same way that I respect a guy like Israel Adesanya giving Joe Pyfer an opportunity, like I respect the guy like Khamzat Moicano saying, I know I'm the guy with the number. You know, I know this is somebody that's, you know, come through American Top Team as well, but I'm going to give him this chance. I mean, that's what you have to do in the fight game is let that new generation have their opportunity. So, and you know, you talk about, it's funny because we talk about like breakdowns and analysis and technical analysis, you know, because you've been around forever. Man, sometimes you can have all the X's and O's in the world, but what you didn't know is that homeboy's girlfriend just cheated on him last weekend or whatever. And like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many things. Like you said, man, he just opened a business, and so he hasn't even been in for the last 3 weeks, or he wasn't able to spar. Like, there's so many things outside of it because this sport is just all encompassing. So, you know, when you say things like that, like, man, he's got all this other stuff going on. Some people may be like, but that doesn't have anything to do with the fight. Hell, it doesn't. It does. You know what I mean?
Right. He's not eating on this schedule that he's supposed to be eating on. I got to tell you, for the Benson fight, right? I was getting good training at fighter training, but when I had my gym at night, I could only grapple with my students. And all my students, sure, they were like, you know, purple and brown belts, a couple blue belts, and a lot of white belts, because I had just opened my gym. And so you're just training with your students. They're not Benson Henderson level grappling or jiu-jitsu. Like, they're not Benson Henderson. I'm like play kicking and doing some light sparring at my own gym. These are bums, but these are my members off the streets. I was thinking of bum fights all of a sudden. But these are
sorry, everybody that's paying their dues. You're not a bum. You're not a bum. I appreciate all those dues. Thank you.
These are members paying their dues, and I'm over here kicking them, getting ready for my fight. It's just not the same. It's not the same. Most of my training at the last 3 weeks of my fight was at night, was at my own gym, because I was running classes, teaching classes. And then you don't eat for that time when your body's starving. And I get home at like 9:30 at night. You got to go run 5 miles, because I do my cardio at night. Come home, and then you eat and you wind down. By the time you get to bed, it's 1 a.m. These are all things that Moicano is having to go through right now. Opening a gym is not the easiest thing. You have to be there. And I'm going to tell you guys, I just got off the phone with Eddie Alvarez this morning. Eddie and I are good friends. You know, I don't know if you guys know, but I own a gi company called Knox. And Knox does gis. We do backpacks. We do like all different types of spats and rash guards and everything for a bunch of different gyms. And I own a UFC gym, a big box gym in California, about 50,000 square foot gym there. And but you know, and we sell all of our products there at that gym as well. These guys, he's calling me up going, hey man, you know, this is like, I was thinking I was going to start my gym. I was going to start a fight camp or start a fight team and all this stuff. He's got a fight team. I'm like, but you cannot run your fight team the same time you have your members there, because they cuss and they yell and they get mad and they throw their mouthpiece, and members get like, ooh, kind of scared about it.
Mm-hmm.
AKA lost a couple hundred members because we used to run fighter training camp during fighter training during members when they were there for like cardio kickboxing and grappling and stuff. And we had members quit because we would start yelling at each other. They got intimidated. Can you imagine Phil Baroni getting mad at me and him and I like throwing the gloves off in the middle of in the ring sparring and be like, fuck you, let's go, and just start really throwing punches at each other? Well, that happened several times. And then the funniest part is, though, John, the funniest part is Phil was living with me at the time, so I had to take him home in my car after we did that. Phil will go, hey, man, I need a ride. I was like, yeah, bro, I'm not going to leave you here. Of course you need a ride. You're living in my house, bro. Like,
that's amazing. You know what? But honestly, that is like really good advice, because I could see some people thinking that like, hey, how cool would it be for these members to be like, I'm right along training beside the pros. Like that would be a marketing tool. Like I want to join this gym because I'm in there working out at the same time. So for somebody that doesn't know, to the uninitiated, that might sound like a positive, where they can be like, hey, I'm on the mats with these guys, granted way over on the mats, but still. But no, that's not the way to do it. It's not the way to do it.
No. So we just had a long conversation. His gym's doing really well. He's just, he wanted some more tips on retention and stuff. And so, man, we had a good time, just having a good talk, and talked for about 45 minutes this morning talking about it. So yeah, man, he's a great guy, man. I love it. I love him, man. He's one of my all-time favorites too. Him and Frankie Edgar in terms of the MMA world.
Oh, Frankie's the man. It's funny. You talk about Benson Henderson. I ran into Benson. I was out at the MMA lab not too long ago, and it was dap up, hug, and everything. And I was like, because Benson wasn't much different than you, bro. He didn't like talking to us either, man. You know what I'm saying? So
I know we talked about it when we did our press tour for our fight. He's like, bro, I don't like talking to these guys. I just say the least amount as I possibly can. I'm like, yeah, I get you.
That's it. It was kind of nice to get a little love from him too. It was good.
But I wanted to talk to you real quick. Go ahead and pull up the card again. You got Virna Jandiroba versus Tabatha Ricci. Great fight. Jandiroba coming off of her loss, and Tabatha Ricci right there though, chomping at the bit for a title shot, just coming up, just not quite ready for it yet. Do you think she gets it done against Jandiroba?
I'm intrigued by this one because I've been a big Jandiroba fan for a long time, just because she's so unique, right? Just in her personality and her look and her fighting style, like not one of these naturally gifted athletes that just like, well, of course you were going to succeed, had to work her ass off. And of course her backstory is incredible as well. So she's always been somebody to cheer for. But Tabatha Ricci, man, like she is an incredible athlete, a phenom on her way up. Like you said, has come short in a couple different opportunities, but she's just always seemed to have, like, you could see the potential in there. And I do believe this is the moment that she can break out. I think that, she's kind of on the rise right now. And I think Virna, a little bit longer in the tooth, a little older, I think this is a tough matchup for her. So I like Tabatha Ricci in this matchup.
No, I actually agree with you. I think if she can keep her back off the fence, she could potentially have some success. And the way she bounces around and moves around, uses her footwork, she has a good chance of doing it. Is she still with Callum Walsh?
I think so. As long as I know. Yeah.
And that, to me, I think is another thing, is when you have somebody who is your boyfriend or whatever, I don't know, fiance, boyfriend, whatever, I really believe that is on the same type of training regimen, understands what you're doing. Now, it's very difficult to understand each other. I dated someone who was a fighter, and it just didn't work out because you're very selfish during that time. But it seems like they've got it worked out, but you can also understand what each other goes through. And I think that probably could help her as well. So just understand, like, okay, she's got to go run. I'll go run with you. I got to get some steps in too. When you guys can do your workouts together, when you guys can do training together, and you guys can, make sure you're on the same diet. If you guys are living together, it all makes sense. And so I think that's it. That's a confidence builder, I think, for her as well. She had her loss to Yan Xiaonan, who's, I think, is phenomenal, man. She's made such changes in terms of her wrestling and her ability to get back up to her feet. But I think Tabatha Ricci, this is her moment as well. So she's got to keep her back off the fence. I think she'll have some success. Whether she can do it or not, I don't know. It's to be determined. So, any other fighters on here you really like we talked about earlier? Keep an eye out for. Who would you like? Who do you want fighters? If you're going to watch a fight, is there a fight on here you're like, hey, you should probably watch this fight?
Keep it right there. Scroll it back down to where it was, because I don't know if that's the actual bout order or not, but there's a couple of them right here in a row, man. You take a look at Abdul Rahman Yagayev versus Brinson Ribeiro at light heavyweight. Yagayev looks like an absolute monster. Like, I don't know if either of these men, if I'm looking at them being like that's future light heavyweight champion, but what I am looking at them and saying that is going to be absolute fireworks. Like, man, in the small cage at the Apex, two big, dangerous light heavyweights, like, don't blink. That's going to be a lot of fun. And I like this Ethan Ewing kid, man. This Ethan Ewing against Rafael Estevam. Man, I think this is a fun one to watch as well. I think Ethan Ewing was a bit kind of unheralded when he came in and got the decision win on late notice against Malcolm Wellmaker, but that made you stand up and take notice. That was a fun fight. And I think Wellmaker's got a lot of bright days ahead of him as well, but now he gets the undefeated Rafael Estevam as well. I like that. And then Tommy McMillan as well. So I love that all those, I don't know if that's the final bout order or not, but I love all those right there. Those are all matchups that I'm looking forward to.
The Ewing prospect, Ethan Ewing, him to me, when he came in to beat Wellmaker, it was one of those fights I was like, damn, this kid came out of nowhere. This kid taking it on short notice, coming in, having a great performance, and he just was putting it on Wellmaker, letting the hands go, letting him fly. Let's see what he can do with the full camp, though. Can he get it done against Esteban? And we're going to find out. And being another undefeated fighter, because Wellmaker was undefeated too, as I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so undefeated. Now I feel like, I hate when the UFC does that. Give this guy a bonus, man. Like, give him a little love. Like, you just beat someone who's undefeated on short notice. Why are you giving me another undefeated guy? Why? Why are you doing this to me? But I'm excited about it. I'm definitely excited to see him fight again. He had me, wanted to see him turn around and fight again. Here he is. This has only been what, 3 months now? They were on the first. I think they were on the first or second card of this year. They fought this year, I believe.
Let me double check.
Or was it the last?
No, it was late last year. It was November of last year. Yeah.
So he's on the Islam card,
Madison Square Garden last year. So and dude, let me throw another couple. Let me throw another couple ones at you too, real quick. Obviously, where is it? Oh yeah, Lando Venata. There it is, right there. There it popped up. Lando Venata and Darius. Anytime Lando Venata's on there, I want to watch Lando against Darius. That'll be fun. But the fight that they just added, do they have it at the very bottom of it? By the way, Trishan, you talk about not doing any favors. Trishan Gore against Azamat Bakwaev. Trishan's had rough. That was weird matchmaking. That's a tough spot for Trishan Gore. But this one that they just added, Kai Kamaka III versus Dakota Hope. Dakota Hope is a very, very bright prospect. I know I've been kind of scouting him and keeping an eye on him about potentially bringing him to CFFC. So love to see him getting that opportunity. And Kai Kamaka getting back to the UFC. You know what I mean? It's so hard to leave the UFC, leave the big stage, and then, have to go back out to the regional stage and battle your way back out there. He had been through every big organization there is. And then to have to, basically in his time away, he was just like, I'll fight anybody, anywhere, anytime. I know Ryan Cafaro, our champ that just went over to Rise, and he was looking for somebody because he had an opponent drop out, and Kai put his hand in the air immediately. It was like, I'll do it. I mean, literally was willing to fight anybody. So to see him get his shot back, I love seeing guys earn that opportunity to get back because I know how much it means to him. So I thought that was a cool little late addition to the card as well that I'll be paying attention to.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Dakota Hope, but I do know quite a bit about Kai Kamaka. I've called a lot of his fights in Bellator, and then in the UFC. When he went to UFC, I was a big supporter of him then. And he's been around for a long period of time, right? And he had done in the early days, he had done like what was it? He had fought like on the prelims of the Bellator cards. Then he went to the UFC, had some, just some fights where he should have won, didn't get the nod. Then he went to Bellator again. And then, he had some success there. And then now he's back in the UFC. So I'm happy for him, man. Was he in the PFL?
He was in the PFL as well.
I thought he did a couple fights in the PFL as well, huh? I think it's easy for him because he's a Vegas guy.
Listen, he's a Vegas guy, and everybody at Extreme Couture will tell you like how much he means to the team, right? He's one of those guys that like just a great training partner, a great motivator, and so they all have his back there. Yeah, his PFL run, by the way, Bubba Jenkins, Pedro Carvalho, and Brendan Loughnane. That was his PFL run. Like, damn,
Yeah. They're all tough fights. They're all tough fights.
All tough fights. Yeah.
Man. Brendan Loughnane it doesn't get the respect he deserves, man. He's a freaking savage, that guy. Absolute savage. I wanted to get your last little bit before we wrap this up. I wanted to get your opinion on last weekend's UFC fight. Their main event. What was your thoughts and your takeaway from it?
Man, the main event, look, Joe Pyfer, let's just say anybody that comes through CFFC, I'm going to be a little bit of a homer for, but so I was definitely a little bit of a homer, but I did feel like when the matchup was announced, I was like, wait a minute, stylistically, this could be very, very good for Joe Pyfer in this matchup with Israel Adesanya. Going into it, the breakdown for me was like, as long as Pyfer's on the front foot and he's the one being the bull, he's going to be effective. Anytime he gets stuck at range and frozen by those feints and frozen by that beautiful footwork and that master space, it's going to be problematic for him. And it played out exactly in that way, right? Like anytime he was stuck outside, he would get stuck with that calf kick. You give Israel Adesanya time to work. It's tough to do. But when he moved forward and pressed and finally got the fight to the ground, it was all Joe Pyfer. So big moment for Joe Pyfer. I'm excited for him. I thought he had a real chance at winning this going in. I guess the biggest evaluation is, do you feel like it was an Israel Adesanya that, isn't elite anymore? And I don't feel that way. Like, I don't I don't feel necessarily that he's at his exact prime, especially given his game, man. As long as he's been around, when you add in the kickboxing and everything else, like that style, man, when it's all based on movement and timing and speed, like that's eventually, and it only has to slip a little bit, right? It only has to go from like 100 to 99 to 98, and you get caught, especially against a guy like Joe Pyfer who has all that power. So, I've seen a lot of people in the days since saying Adesanya needs to hang it up. I don't agree with that. I don't think he necessarily has another championship run left in him, but I think he's certainly invested enough in this sport and put enough of himself out there that if he's still enjoying it and he still, has love for the game and wants to collect that money, let him do it. But I thought this was a huge win for Joe Pyfer, and I was happy to see him do it.
I would agree with you 100%. I mean, I'm not opposed to watching him fight someone like Anthony Hernandez, someone who is not as fast, not as explosive, doesn't hit as hard as Joe Pyfer. He's got some wrestling and some grappling. I don't know if he has the wrestling, like in the strength of Joe Pyfer to get Izzy down. He maybe could get him down, but I think Anthony Hernandez would be a fun fight. I think it'd be a great fight, and there's other guys in there that you could probably mix in, but look, I think I'm okay with just seeing Izzy fight, period, until he's ready to hang it up. I'm not ready to say it's over. The losses he does have are to the best guys right now, and the guys that are the champion, or not, or they're working their way, or they're right there on the champion. Sean Strickland and Amavov, and who else was there? And did he fight DDP? He didn't fight DDP.
It's everybody at the top, man. The bottom line, it's the elite of the elite of the elite. Now, when you start, and I don't think that they would necessarily just throw him to the up-and-coming 24-year-old right now.
No.
I'm not sure they're ready to do that matchmaking, especially with what they pay him and that sort of thing. But you're right. He's only losing to the elite of the elite. And it hasn't been like, fighting Alex Pereira was scarier than anybody else that you're going to fight in there. And he came through that okay. So, look, I know he's closer to the end than he is to the beginning of his career, but I don't have this like, bro, please hang it up right now. I can't bear to watch you walk out there anymore. I'm definitely not at that position.
No. And then the Alexa Grasso fight with Macy Barber. Look, I can't wrap my head around all the hate for Macy Barber. I mean, people were saying like all the shit she was talking on the fight. I'm like, she's building up the fight. What are we talking about? Like, people have said some nasty ass shit, and you're all still fans of them. I mean, have you ever heard of any of the Colby interviews and some of the Conor interviews? Like, what are we talking about? Oh, now we hate him because she said it? Come on.
I don't get it either. On the one hand, we're saying, man, the UFC needs more stars. They need more people willing to market these fights and stuff. And then somebody does, and like, sit down. What are you doing? Like, I used to do that thing when she used to walk around with like the timer on her phone of like how many days she had left to be the youngest UFC champion. Like, I thought that was cool as hell, man. You know what I mean? And here's the other thing. And I know you get this. Anytime somebody calls a mixed martial artist cocky, I just look at them. I'm like, do you understand what type of self-confidence you have to have in yourself to lock yourself into a steel cage with another highly trained killer out there looking to separate you from consciousness? Like, you almost have to be delusional in how much you believe in yourself, right? So when people are bold and boisterous like that, like, bro, understand that's kind of part of the assignment.
That's a good point. I mean, like, I never got called cocky, so
no, never. Never. I remember we always used to just show up and be like, "Oh, Josh, the humble punk that you are."
So humble. Like I felt like I was so easy to deal with. I was very difficult to the media. I was very difficult. I just felt like you guys always had an angle, and it drove me crazy, And I also felt like all we did was ever get the same questions. It was like nothing new ever came about. Like, how's life? Like, how are you? Like let's have a real interview, not just like, so talk about your opponent, talk about this. Like, let's get to know each other a little bit. And that never came out. And I was like, these guys don't care. They're just really just talking, doing the same stuff.
It sucks because especially there's a twofold, right? I can tell you from a media perspective. On fight week, I will say I do think we're always a little bit worried about, we know a fighter's on a weight cut. We don't want to bother him with stuff that's outside of fight week. Like, I don't want to ask him too much stuff of like other stuff outside life when they're like, bro, you do understand I have a cage fight on Saturday. Why are we talking about this right now? So I do feel like time and a place. And so I will say from our perspective, I do think that's one reason we did try to keep it on point. Now, I will say the number of interviews that have to be done. And you're right, they are basically the same interview over and over and over. So I feel kind of bad for the athlete that they have to do that. But I do love the long form stuff. It's, of course, right now, man, media, it's all about that one short clip. You know, what comes up up in the photographic that you can pull up, or what's the one clip that's going to get plenty of views. But I agree with you, man. I do love the long form stuff where you really get to learn, because I think everybody in the sport has a story, man. Everybody has a story, man. To decide that this is what you want to do for a living, like, hey, man, no, mom and dad, that school thing that you're talking about, nah, not for me. I'm going to be a professional cage fighter. Like, man, that takes a special human being, man. It takes a special human being.
Rich Franklin, right? Like the whole Rich Franklin story, right? Math teacher to UFC fighter, and then would go back to school with black eyes. Teachers are like, what the hell's going on? This guy, he's probably fighting underneath bridges for cheeseburgers.
Josh Thomson got him fighting for Whoppers, bro.
Yeah, man. Teachers' pay just not what it used to be. I swear.
All right.
But
I was just saying, but real quick, this past weekend was scary. I hope that Macy's okay, because on the one hand, amazing work from Alexa Grasso. Like, she was landing those combinations early. So that counter, man, I mean, she nailed it. And then the speed that she went to the back was amazing. My hope is just long term that Macy's okay, because that was weird. We've seen a lot of people get knocked out.
That was very weird.
Seen it hundreds of times. But the way that she was like out, but then kind of drives in on the single and then kind of sits back, like, that scared me a little bit, because I feel like it's kind of that secondary delayed reaction that, like, bad stuff's happening. So I just, knock on wood, I know she says she's okay. I know the UFC and the commission will send her through a battery of tests, but I just hope there wasn't more than what we saw, because that was scary moments. You and I have seen a lot of knockouts, a lot of scary stuff. That was scary.
That was scary because whoever was in the fucking production truck decided to, like, zoom in on her face after they went away and then came back and then decided to hang out there. I was like, what are you doing? Like, I get it. The first moment when she laid back and her eyes were open, you check to see if she's maybe just waiting to blink. Then you realize she's not, and she's still out, and they went away, and then they came back, and for like another minute, they were on her. I was like, man, what are you doing? Wait till she at least blinks. Do something along those lines.
So I think it was twofold. Number one, you're right, because she wasn't blinking. Again, it was weird because she was fine and then she wasn't fine. I think part of it was because you also had Alexa Grasso in the shot. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't realize that Macy was in the shot, but you did have that cool moment of respect where Alexa just stops her celebration. She kneels down. And I'm sure from a visual television making perspective, like, that's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat and everything all in one shot. And you're seeing this respect for a fallen, a foe. I don't know, but it did start to get a little uncomfortable. There's no question about it.
John, you got a question here, man, for $20. Zeke6629, one of my longtime fans and members, man. He's an amazing guy. He's been with us for a long time. Go ahead and John, how did you feel about the BMF fight? Was the BMF worthy? And the matchmaking has been, shaky lately? Sorry, my eyesight's really bad. What's going on? I get it. They have tons of fighters, but a lot of these fights have been one-sided.
The BMF thing is tough, right? Because I remember as far as did the two individuals that were involved in the BMF fight deserve to be in the BMF fight, you're damn right they did. Like, those are two BMFs, man. There's no question about it. Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira, two of the best to ever do it. Did it play out like you expect a quote-unquote BMF fight, even though we're just making that up anyway? No. I mean, it was really weird, because had that not been for a BMF title, like, had that literally been a number one contender fight, an interim title fight, whatever, we would have walked out the door and be like, my God, can you believe that Charles Oliveira just manhandled Max Holloway like that? Never saw that coming in a million years. You know what I mean? You wouldn't. But because it was a BMF fight, it's like it comes with some unwritten rule of what it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? I will say probably the most BMF thing that happened in that fight was when Max Holloway's in the first round, dry as a bone, got Charles Oliveira on his back, and he's just cheesing for the camera. And I was like, that's gangster, bro, because one mistake, you're done. So it was I walked out of there with mixed feelings, because I understand exactly what you're saying, Zeke. Like, it didn't feel like a BMF fight. It's like there's some unwritten rule of what a BMF fight is supposed to be, but if you take the BMF out of the equation, it was an unbelievably dominant performance that I never saw coming from Charles Oliveira. As far as the matchmaking, look, they do have a lot of fighters. It does have a lot of fights. And I will tell you that matchmaking in the UFC is the absolute worst job on the face of the planet, bro. It is the worst. I know it seems cool, the fantasy matchmaking, the whatever, but I've seen Joe Silva. I've seen Sean Shelby. I've seen McMaynard. Dude,
Mhm.
it is the worst job on the face of the planet trying to keep these cards together and the calls and the texts and, you know, who just got hurt and who doesn't want to take that fight and who trained with them one time so they're not okay with that and who was getting married so they can or who would prefer to fight. It is a nightmare. So not to say that that's not their job and that they're not well compensated for it, but just understand, you know, when you think about it, it's not just as easy as, hey, man, let's go in the war room. Let's take this name right there. Let's take that name right there. Boom. We just made ourselves a fight. It don't work like that.
I tell this story all the time. I was doing an autograph signing. Joe Silva came and was there with me and stuff like that. And we were talking and, you know, he was asking me because it was for the Anthony Pettis title fight that I was supposed to get. And he goes, I said, because TJ Grant was supposed to get the title fight and TJ Grant had a concussion issues, never fought again after that. Yeah. And so then my name came up and then they pushed me forward and I was supposed to fight for the title. And I was like, I go, what was your deciding factor? He's like, look at the card. He's look, I'm giving you the top 15 guys right here on his phone. All the names in red, can't fight. Basically, it was the whole top 15. There was no one, there was only one other person I think ranked ahead of me. I was ranked number 3. I think it was Gray Maynard. And then right after that, Gray had lost to Nate Diaz. And then I had just beat Nate. So then, you know, but then it was this big process of like, he's like, these guys can't fight. And then when Pettis fell off, he calls and goes, hey, I want you to fight Rustam Khabilov.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's not even in the rankings. I'm not fighting that dude. And I go, I'm number 3 right now. I go, I just beat Nate, who just fought for the title. I'll wait for the title shot. He's like, you'll be waiting forever. He's like, I'm not giving you a fucking shot. I was like, look, all I asked for is somebody, give me somebody that's, I don't care if just that they're in the rankings. And he called me a couple days later, like a week later, 5 days later, he calls after telling me I'm going to sit on the bench for 6 months. And Bob Cook goes, Josh is pretty good with his money. He'll be good for a couple years. So then he calls me back. He calls me back 5 days later. He's like, all right, RDA. I'm like, I'll take it. Because RDA was, yeah. I was like, I'll take it. I said, I just wanted somebody that was, you know, and then they called me and they called me back and they go, actually, we're going to have you fight Benson. Benson said he'll take it. Benson was getting married literally like a couple days or like a week after. So he was like, just don't mark me up. I was like, bro, don't worry about it. I'm trying to submit
body shots only. Body shots only.
Body shots only. So I'm not gonna take a dig on the matchmaking. I just know how hard it is.
If matchmaking in a vacuum where like there weren't all those variables, like it would be a hell of a job. It'd be so fun to be like, bro, as a fight fan, we could just sit back and we can put this guy with that guy and stylistically this would be cool. And how about this guy, the storyline? It would be fun. But dude, it is way more complicated than that.
I knew Sean Shelby before he was the matchmaker for the UFC, and he looks like he walks on death's door. I'm like, damn, he looks like death, man, when I see him. And I knew him when he was younger. I knew him when he was like spry. He's not that guy anymore. That guy is gone. Just having a conversation with him, he's just like, he always looks exhausted. And I said, because I saw him at Chuck Liddell's wedding, and I was asking him questions. I go, why do you always look so tired? He's like, Chuck got married on a Sunday evening. He's like, I have weigh-ins tomorrow for I think it was the Ultimate Fighter. No,
Ultimate
it was Dana White
Contender
Contender Series. Yeah, Dana White Contender Series. Like, and then we have the Ultimate Fighter. I got weigh-ins for that. He's like, and then we got the fights. He's like, I got to be at all these events. He's like, I'm not just doing the fights you guys see, like the big shows. I'm doing every card, every single show. I'm at Ankles and Slap and all this other. I'm at everything. I'm like, damn.
And then, oh, by the way, like when he's at the weigh-ins, it's not just that he's there for the face-off. It's that then when, you know, fighter A misses weight, now you got to go talk to fighter B and be like, hey, man, look, he missed weight. And fighter B says, he didn't even try. I saw him in the sauna. He wasn't even worried. Why did he show up at 9:01? He could have showed up at 10. He wasn't even trying. He's trying to get one over on me. I'm not taking that fight. Well, what if we asked for 30% instead of 20? You know what I mean? Like, it's non-stop problems.
And then when you have fighters that didn't get all their medicals in. And they're like, shit, they're scrambling around, sending the fighter to go get their last medical because they didn't get it in, or it came back inconclusive, or the eye exam wasn't done by an ophthalmologist. It was done by an optometrist or whatever. It's like, those are all things that knucklehead fighters do and just cause more problems for the actual promotion. They show up like, yeah, all my medicals are done. Bro, we needed blood work, not pee work. What are you doing? Like, oh, yeah, it's the ophthalmologist and the optometrist one is the one that gets the fighters every time. They all go to Costco and they think that that's good. No, you got to go to the ophthalmologist, dude. Like it's a different test. Anyways. And then when you hit 36, you got to go get the EKG and all the other things with K and G in them.
They add to it. It's crazy, man.
So definitely not a job that I want. I'm not going to take a dig on the matchmaking in terms of the BMF title. And I know this is custom for John, but not for me. But I really feel like you shouldn't match up guys that are ranked in the top 5 for the BMF title because they have too much at stake. They know that one win away from getting a title shot. And both of these guys, their goals are still to fight for the title. Doesn't matter their age. They are still right there in that top 5. When you match those guys, they're going to fight to do whatever it takes to win. That's it. They know one win, and I potentially am a fight for the title. And that's where the money is.
Yep. I was going to say, I'm just thinking about Izzy Adesanya in a BMF title fight now. Now that he's kind of out of the title picture, you know what I'm saying? Like, can we come up with a fight that makes sense? So. Yeah, I mean, I know the BMF started as a gimmick or whatever, but I kind of came around on it once we had the fight and everything. Yeah. It was kind of fun, so I get it. But that is a great point that if they're at the top like that, it kind of doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. I really want to see. I actually want to see them run it back, the Michael Chandler and Dan Hooker fight. I want to see that fight. I would say BSD like Benoit Saint Denis. I would say that, but Benoit he still is trying to make that run. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reserve that for later. If it doesn't work out, then cool, bring him down. Let's go ahead and see, him fight one of those guys. But there's fights to be made, man, with these guys that are can be considered bad motherfuckers. So there's lots of fights out there that we can watch. So Pantoja, whenever he's done being the champion or whenever he's done going that route, shit, he'll be in every damn BMF title. That guy is a stud, an absolute savage. All right, John, man, I'm going to get you out of here, man. I appreciate you joining, and I'm hoping that we can do this every Tuesday. I think you and I were talking about doing this. If you can structure that in, we can do this thing every Tuesday night, and we'll have some fun. And I just love being able to talk the trash to someone that doesn't take it personal, okay? Doesn't get the panties in a bunch. And you and I hopefully will be working together a lot more moving forward, whether it's on the pod or whether it's, with CFFC. So when does the CFFC have their next show, by the way?
Well, we've got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu show actually this Friday. So if you want to see some grappling, we got that this week, Friday night on UFC Fight Pass. But the next one will be April 17th. So tune in April 17th. By the way, I'll tease this week on April 3rd. Michael Chiesa is coming out. Michael Chiesa, who just retired, is working UFC BJJ on Thursday and then taking a red eye to Philadelphia to do CFFC BJJ on Friday nights. This man just retired. He's working harder than he ever was. But the next MMA show, April 17th, man, I'm telling you, the main event there, Bilal Hassan and Ben Coyle. Bilal Hassan is this 8-0 undefeated flyweight who I can't believe isn't in the UFC already. He's seeking his 4th title defense. Unbelievable kid. But Ben Coyle hits like a truck and has zero respect for Bilal whatsoever. So we'll talk about that later.
That's going to be a great fight.
Will be the next one. Great fight. Great flyweight title fight. 2300 Arena is a great venue. So, yeah, we got a couple shows coming up in April.
All right, man, we're going to get you out of here on there and wrap that up, man. Thank you guys so much. Hey, hit that link down below in the descriptions for LMNT if you guys want to pick anything up. The new pineapple flavor is bomb. They also make them in the smaller cans. It's freaking awesome. And I want you guys to go to wewantpicks.com/offer. Use the promo code ANDSTILL. It gives you the analytics to the fights. It does not tell you how to bet. It just gives you the platform that you guys can use to go ahead and put together your own bets. It also has people on there. It has an AI-generated analytics platform. So all you have to do is just type in the fighter's name. It'll post up all their analytics, all the details of what they've done in their career. You can match them up against their opponent and just come to the conclusion on yourself. I'm not here to tell you who to bet. That's your job. You guys can go to wewantpicks.com/offer and they will take care of you over there. Use the promo code ANDSTILL. All right, John, man, it's been a pleasure. And we're going to do this again. Obviously, we're going to do this again. So talk soon.
Yes, sir.